I should have known something was off the second I stepped into the house. The fake warmth in my mom's voice on the phone, the unusually cheerful text from my dad. Hell, even Emily's "We miss you" felt like it was ripped from a bad sitcom script. But I showed up anyway, stupidly clinging to some dying ember of hope. The room was thick with that sterile kind of tension. Smiling faces stretched too tight. Emily was already posted at the table, swirling her wine like a Bond villain in yoga pants. "Wow," she said, "you actually showed. Didn't think tire grease washed off." I didn't take the bait, just sat down. Dad cleared his throat, folded his newspaper. "We've decided to divide the estate." That was it. No build-up, no sentiment, just a corporate announcement at the dinner table. Emily's eyes went glassy like she'd just been handed a Nobel Prize. "Are you serious? The beach house?" Mom nodded, glowing. "It's yours, sweetheart." Emily clapped like a drunk seal. "Oh my God, the Malibu one?" "Of course," Mom cooed. I waited. I kept waiting. Dad finally turned to me. "And Logan, we're giving you the parking lot." Silence. Just the low buzz of the ceiling fan and the sound of Emily choking on her own laughter. "The old lot on 8th Street, Mom added, like she was describing a lost sock. Emily recovered. "Well, at least you'll always have somewhere to sleep." They all laughed. A real comedy show. Except I wasn't laughing. I was gripping the edge of my chair so hard my fingers ached. "Really?" I asked. "That's the plan?" Dad shrugged. "You've always said you wanted to build something. Now's your chance." That night, I didn't scream, I didn't argue. I just said, "Okay." Then I walked out without another word. But inside, something broke. Or maybe something finally woke up. Flashback, age 16. I'd come home covered in grease, proud of my first job at the auto shop. I held up my first paycheck like it was gold. Emily sat on the couch crying because her iPhone was too slow. Mom looked up and said, "Well, at least he's useful." They bought her a BMW 3 days later. Present. I stood in front of the parking lot that night. Cracked asphalt, rusted signs swinging in the wind. It looked exactly like how they saw me. Worthless. Empty. Fine. They wanted me to fail? I'd make sure they choked on their expectations. The next morning, I applied for permits. Food trucks, seating, outdoor music. I took out a loan from my boss at the auto shop. He was the only one who'd ever treated me like I was more than background noise. Within 3 weeks, my trash lot had lines around the block. Burgers, tacos, overpriced vegan wraps for the hipsters. It didn't matter. People came. People loved it. That's when the real fun began. Because my mom showed up. Wrapped in some designer trench, her face curled in disdain. "So, this is what you've done with it," she said, scanning the crowd like they were insects. "You gave me garbage," I said, "so I turned it into gold." "This isn't a real business," she sniffed. "It's a phase." She wasn't the last surprise, because one night, 2 figures stood at the edge of the lot, half shadowed by the neon lights. Emily and Dad. They were watching, judging, plotting. And that's when I knew they wanted in. That night, I found a note taped to my front door. "Let's talk, over dinner." No signature, just the time. 7 p.m. Tomorrow. I didn't RSVP to the dinner. I didn't have to. At exactly 7 p.m., a black SUV pulled up in front of my apartment. Not Emily's flashy convertible, not my dad's midlife crisis Tesla. A rental. Generic, forgettable, like they were trying to be subtle and failing spectacularly. I watched through the blinds. 3 knocks, then silence. I opened the door. Dad, alone. "We just want to talk," he said, hands raised like I was a wild animal he needed to calm. "Where's Emily?" "She's at the restaurant." "Then you go talk to her," he sighed. "Logan, come on, you've made your point." "No," I said, stepping outside and shutting the door behind me. "You haven't even seen it." 20 minutes later, we were at the lot. Night was when the place came alive. String lights, music, laughter, A line at every truck. I saw regulars, kids chasing each other with popsicles, a couple taking selfies near the neon mural I paid an art student to spray paint. "This is impressive," Dad admitted. I didn't say anything. I just watched him squirm in the presence of something he couldn't control. Finally, he said it. "We'd like to invest." I laughed, out loud, hard. "Invest? You gave me this place as a joke. Now that it's making money, you want in? You're still family." "No, I'm your failed experiment." Dad's eyes narrowed. "You really want to do this alone?" That's when Emily showed up. Hair perfect, heels stabbing the pavement, eyes gleaming like polished knives. "Logan," she said with a practiced smile, "this could be huge. With the right backing, you could franchise, build more of these in other cities. You've got something. We just want to help." "You don't get to help," I said. "You don't get to rewrite history." "But we do get lawyers," she said, dropping the act. That stopped me. "What?" Emily pulled out her phone and scrolled. "The deed. You never had it transferred, did you?" My blood ran cold. "The lot's still in Dad's name," she said sweetly, "which means technically this is his property. And you're just squatting." I couldn't speak. I couldn't breathe. Emily leaned in, voice syrupy. "You can either give us a cut, or we shut it down." I stared at her, at both of them. The people who had handed me nothing and now wanted everything. Flashback, age 19. I'd applied to a trade school, paid for the first semester with 3 part-time jobs. Dad found the acceptance letter. "You really want to spend your life under a car hood?" he'd said. I nodded. He tossed the letter into the trash. Present. I nodded now too. "Okay," I said calmly. "Okay?" Emily asked, confused. "Let's talk," I said. "I'll bring the paperwork, you bring your lawyer." She smiled like a shark sensing blood. They thought they'd won. They hadn't seen what I was really building. Not just a food court, a trap. Because that night, after they left, I made one phone call to the guy who helped me file the original permits. "Hey," I said, "that back lot I was gonna expand into? Yeah? I'm gonna need it, and I want to move fast. I've got some predators to deal with." Because that night, after they left, I made one phone call to the guy who helped me file the original permits. "Hey," I said, "that back lot I was gonna expand into? Yeah? I'm gonna need it, and I want to move fast. I've got some predators to deal with." I didn't sleep the night after their visit. Not because I was afraid, but because for the first time in my life, I wasn't reacting to them. I was planning. You don't grow up ignored by your family and survive without learning to think 5 moves ahead. While Emily was busy scheming, I was making contingency plans she couldn't even imagine. They thought the parking lot was my endgame. They didn't know it was the opening move. 4 years earlier, I had just finished repairing the busted front axle on a customer's '98 Civic when my boss, Rico, tossed me a beer and said, "You're too smart to be here forever." I wiped the grease from my hands. "This shop saved my life." Rico nodded. "Then build something that saves others." I never forgot that. Present. The expansion plan had started months ago, long before they knew what I was doing. I'd spotted a small patch of land behind the original lot, just big enough to fit another set of trucks and an outdoor screen. It was an eyesore, but it was cheap. I negotiated a lease-to-own deal with the city under a dummy LLC I'd created just for moments like this. While they were congratulating themselves for giving me trash, I was quietly laying concrete. And now I just needed to finish the job. I met with Lewis, my lawyer, the next morning. Young, hungry, brilliant. The kind of guy who didn't flinch when I said the words, "They're trying to take what I built." "They still own the land," he said. "Technically, they're within their rights, but we've got leverage." Explain. "We apply for an emergency zoning variance. The lot's a designated commercial hub now. Any attempt to displace it triggers a community review board. If the city sides with you, it won't just be bad PR, it'll be legal hell. And if they go around it?" Lewis smirked. "Then we bury them in paperwork until the day they die."
That night, I walked the lot alone. Music was off, lights were dimmed, but I still saw traces of what I'd built. Confetti from a kid's birthday party, chalk drawings on the sidewalk, a half-eaten churro near a bench someone had called their break spot online. This wasn't a business, it was a statement. Proof that I could rise from nothing, that even if they handed me dust, I could sculpt it into stone. And now they wanted to wipe it away with a pen. Not happening. I called Emily. "Dinner tomorrow. I'll bring the paperwork." She didn't hesitate. "Looking forward to it." Neither of us said what we were really thinking. The next day, we met at a rooftop bar downtown, the kind of place Emily liked. Skyline views, overpriced cocktails, servers who spoke in half whispers. She arrived late, of course. Dad trailed behind her like a bodyguard who forgot how to look intimidating. "You brought your lawyer?" Emily asked, nodding at Lewis. "Didn't you?" She smirked. "Ours is on standby." We sat. I handed her a manila envelope. Inside, a draft agreement granting me full rights to operate independently for 10 years, followed by a buyout clause that would require them to pay triple the current valuation if they wanted any stake. Emily flipped through it, expression tightening. "You expect us to sign this?" Lewis leaned forward. "You're free to walk, but just know, Logan's applying for federal recognition as a local small business initiative. If approved, any attempt to displace it could be interpreted as targeted sabotage." Dad's face went pale. Emily scoffed. "You think we'll just give up because you've got some paperwork?" I smiled. "Not just paperwork," I said, sliding over a second envelope. She opened it. Inside were screenshots of text messages, photos, emails, all from the last few months. From her lawyer, from her private banker, from the shell company they were using to start another lot across town using my exact blueprint. Emily's face froze. "How did you get these? You think you're the only one who can play chess?" I stood up. "This is how it's going to go. You'll leave the current lot alone. You won't interfere. And in exchange, I won't go public with the fact that you tried to duplicate my business behind my back using intellectual property I have now legally trademarked." Luis added, "And you'll sign a non-compete clause. If you so much as open a lemonade stand within 10 miles, we'll sue." Dad opened his mouth, closed it. Emily stared at me like she didn't recognize me. Because she didn't. The brother she knew, the one who fixed her car for free and took verbal punches with a smile, he was gone. This Logan didn't beg. He built. He bled. And now he bites back. That night, after the meeting, I checked my phone. One new text from a blocked number. "You think this is over? You have no idea who you're messing with." I didn't reply. I just saved the number under a new contact. Emily, threat log number 1. Because if she wanted war, I was already 10 moves ahead. It started with silence. No legal letters, no phone calls, not even Emily's trademark passive-aggressive texts. For a solid week after that rooftop standoff, nothing. It was the kind of quiet that doesn't comfort. It stalks you, like waiting for a storm you can't see, but can feel. So, I prepared. If they were building something behind my back, I needed eyes everywhere. I paid a guy named Wes, XP, current security consultant, to install surveillance around the lot. Cameras, motion sensors, microphones. I even upgraded my phone with encrypted call logs and installed 2 different anti-spyware acts. Paranoia? No. Insurance. Because I didn't trust Emily not to get surgical. 5 days later, she made her move. A food safety inspection, unannounced, at 9 a.m. 3 trucks failed. Not because they were dirty, but because a random citizen complaint accused them of using expired ingredients. Total fiction. But it still shut down half my business for the day. Coincidence? The inspector didn't know who Emily was, but the complaint? It came from an email traced to a burner domain. The IP? Registered under a corporation called Ardent Developments. Guess who sat on the board? Dad. That night, I drove to their house. I didn't ring the doorbell. I waited in the driveway, leaned against the hood of my truck, and texted him, "I'm outside. Bring your mask." He came out 5 minutes later, already defensive. "Emily doesn't speak for me," he said. "But you signed the documents, right?" Silence. "You really want to play this game?" I asked. "You think just because you used a new shell company I wouldn't trace it?" "I was trying to protect our family." "No," I said. "You were trying to make sure you got a piece before the ship left without you. You don't understand what this could mean for us." "There's no us," I snapped. "You gave me up the minute you laughed at the idea of me running anything more than a lemonade stand." I turned to leave. But then he said something that stopped me cold. "You know she's building her own version, right?" I turned back slowly. "She's calling it a premium urban courtyard experience," he said. "Downtown. Investors already lined up." "What investors?" He hesitated. And that's when I knew. He was scared of her too. Emily wasn't just playing games. She was playing for legacy. Which meant I had to go nuclear. Phase 2. Undermine. I reached out to every vendor I'd worked with over the past 6 months. Sent them new contract offers, better terms, guaranteed monthly minimums, and shared social media exposure. In exchange, they had to sign exclusivity clauses. If they did business with Emily's pop-up lot, they'd be dropped. Out of the 16 vendors I reached out to, 13 signed immediately. The other 3? Well, 2 were already planning to move to other cities. And one had just inked a deal with Emily. Perfect. I called him myself.
"Hey," I said, "we're good. You do you. But just a heads up, our lawyers will be in touch regarding your NDA." "You never made me sign an NDA. I sent the PDF while we were still on the phone. Check your email. Page 7. You initialed it back in March." Click. Flashback. Age 21. I had shown Dad my plans for a mobile garage, a traveling mechanic truck that could visit people at home. It was rough, but innovative. "Not bad," he'd said, "but don't waste your energy on dreams. That's not how real life works." Present. I filed for a citywide public event license. Every weekend for the next 90 days. That meant no new food courts could legally host musical or promotional events without my written consent. Emily called me 3 days later. Blocked number. "You're tanking your own brand." "No," I said, "I'm starving yours." "You think I won't go scorched earth?" "I hope you do," I said, smiling, "because I'm the only one wearing fireproof boots." But it was Luis who gave me the final bullet. We met in his office, floor-to-ceiling glass, espresso machine hissing in the corner. "She's over-leveraged," he said. "The new project? It's operating on bridge loans. She's using your momentum to sell fake potential to investors. If the lot doesn't launch within 30 days, she defaults." I blinked. "So we wait?" Luis shook his head. "No, we push." The next morning, I leaked a document, anonymously. A PDF titled, "The Real Owner Behind Ardent Developments." I sent it to local food blogs, micro-influencers, and one investigative podcaster who was already sniffing around for corruption stories. By sunset, the headline was trending locally. "Mega food court scam? Wealthy heirs try to hijack community startup." I turned off my phone and waited for the fire to start. The backlash was instant. By 10 a.m., the comments were pouring in. "Wait, so the guy builds a business from scratch, and now his rich sister tries to steal it? This is giving Fire Festival but with trucks. Support Logan's lot, not Emily's entitled eatery." I didn't write that last one, but I wish I had. My lot was busier than ever. Lines snaked around the block, not just for the food, but because people love a cause. People love an underdog. They love to pick sides. And this time, I wasn't just a story. I was the symbol of everything they hated. Nepotism, arrogance, generational entitlement. Emily had become the villain, and she didn't handle it well. Monday.
An anonymous article surfaces online painting me as a toxic entrepreneur who intimidated his way to local dominance. The quotes? Fabricated. The sources? Non-existent. The author? A journalist known for clickbait and sponsored hatchet jobs. Luis filed a defamation notice before lunch. Tuesday. My email was hacked. Briefly. Someone sent fake announcements to my vendors saying the lot was shutting down. Within 30 minutes, I was calling everyone personally. Calm, collected, strategic. By 6 p.m., I posted a public video, a tour of the food court with the caption, "They're trying everything, but we're still standing and feeding." That video hit 500K views in 24 hours. Wednesday. Emily came to the lot. In person. Hair unstyled. No entourage. Dressed down in a hoodie and sunglasses like she thought anonymity could save her from herself. She found me near the coffee truck. Logan. Emily. She looked exhausted, like someone who hadn't slept since the headline dropped. "I'm done," she said. "Great," I replied. "I accept your surrender." "I'm not here to surrender. I'm here to offer you a deal." I raised an eyebrow. "Still bargaining, huh?" She pulled out her phone and tapped the screen. A photo appeared. It was of me, in my garage, with Wes, the PI, and behind us, blueprints. Expansion blueprints. Unregistered, not public. "You've been planning a franchise," she said, "before your permits were approved. Technically, that's not legal." I stared at the photo. Then I laughed. "You had someone tail me?" Emily didn't respond. She just stared, daring me to blink. "You know," I said, "for someone raised in the lap of privilege, you're impressively bad at strategy."
Her lips twitched. "What does that mean?" I leaned in, voice low. "It means the blueprints were fake." She blinked. "They were a trap," I said, "to see if you were still spying, which you are." She opened her mouth, but I cut her off. "And by the way, the real expansion plans already approved yesterday." She stepped back like I'd hit her. I didn't gloat. I didn't smirk. I just walked away. The final blow. The city revoked Emily's startup permit. Not because of me, at least not directly. Someone, not me, of course, tipped off the city about Arden's financial structure, a convoluted mess of offshore accounts, undisclosed conflicts of interest, and falsified investor reports. The city froze her project. Her backers pulled out. The land went up for public auction. I bought it. Cash. 2 months later. I stood where her fake food court was supposed to go. A sign was being installed. It read, "Logan's Lot, downtown." Bigger, better, legitimate. Emily disappeared from social media. Dad moved to Arizona. Mom sent me a long email about family and forgiveness. I archived it without reading. Epilogue. People ask if I forgave them. The answer? No. I didn't need to, because forgiveness implies power they no longer have. What I built isn't just a business. It's proof. Proof that I didn't need their beach house, their approval, their inheritance. They gave me a parking lot. I gave them a legacy and made sure they'd never forget who wrote it.